Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, welcome into the program. We hope that you're doing well and you are ready for some Computer America. So today on the program, we have a great show lined up for you, tons of different things to talk about. And honestly, the first part of the program will be dominated by Apple. Yep, they had their big event where they showed off a lot of their hardware, the latest iPhone 13 and everything that goes along with it. And of course, some changes to their services, some updates to their camera. Yep, we'll fill you in. Don't worry about it. But, of course, in the second part of the show, we'll have computer and technology news. That's really is just anything fun, interesting, and new that has to do with technology. Now, everyone, welcome into the program once again. ComputerAmerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, past shows, future shows, everything you need to know about the program. You can find it there. As if you go there now, you can see we've started re-uploading some of our past episodes, and we are working our way, and hopefully by sometime tonight or tomorrow, we should be all caught up and ready to go. And with that, of course, if you can't catch us live on IRN, then you can catch us wherever podcasts are heard. We have a directory at our website, but hey, first place the first place is IRN, second place podcast, and of course, we also have the live video stream going on at our website. Now, I think with all that said, we can go ahead and get started with computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. So we have a ton of stories, and honestly, a lot of these probably overlap. So, hopefully you are patient with me. But yeah, we're going to pull this one from the Verge and kind of move on from there because there were so many different ones, and then we'll kind of fill in the gaps and make sure that we catch everything. So this would be the 8 biggest announcements that were shown off at the Apple event. The Apple September 2021 event, if you're trying to find it on Google. Now, let's go ahead and get started with this, saying that Apple just finished its California streaming event, and it announced a whole new line of products. Well, not really line, but refresh products, including the iPhone 13, new Apple Watches with bigger screens, and new iPads. That's right. The new Apple Watches look like iPads on your wrist. It's really amazing. Very cumbersome, but it's amazing that Apple. I'm joking, by the way. Now, let's go ahead and say that the first one, the iPhone 13, has a familiar design with a smaller notch. So if anyone out there is, kind of curious what the iPhone looks like, well, the iPhone 13 looks very, very similar. And you can see them right up here on our screen. These are product images supplied by Apple. And yeah, they have the iPhone 13 mini, they have the iPhone 13, and then of course the iPhone 13 Pro Max as well. And I'm sure that there's also an iPhone Pro to kind of fill in the gap between the iPhone Pro Max and the iPhone Pro. Now, they say that the iPhone 13 mini starts at $729. The iPhone 13 starts at $829, though both are more affordable with carrier discounts. So, and that's always the thing here in the US, that if you buy through a carrier, carriers know that, and yeah, they definitely want to rope you into those longer term plans. Now, they said that you can pre-order them, of course, through the website, I'm sure, and of course through AT&T is their preferred carrier, but I'm sure that the likes of Verizon can do it as well. Now, they say that they have a smaller notch and a diagonal camera array. There you go. So, and that has to do with this first image right here. So before, you had two cameras that were kind of left and right of each other. Now they are, imagine a 4-quadrant square. Instead of being in quadrant 1 and 2, they're in quadrant 2 and 4. So you can see that little bit of array that allows some neat new camera tricks. Now, they said that the iPhone 13 Pro and the Pro Max look similar to their predecessors with a stainless steel band around the edge and a matte finish on the back, which, again, here's the edge. Honestly, Apple knows that they have a signature look, and they're not going to really tamper with that. But if they're hoping to kind of sell phones, if they're hoping to sell cell phones based on the image of these things, nope, stay the course. That seems to be the way to go. They said that with a stainless steel band around the sides and a matte finish on the back, but the big upgrade is the screen, where they support Apple's ProMotion adaptive refresh rate that tops out at 120 hertz. Which, honestly, kind of surprises me that they didn't already support 120 hertz, considering that they could shoot in 120 hertz. The 120 hertz was the slow motion, where essentially it would shoot at 120 frames per second, and then of course you could slow it down to a regular, 30 frames per second video, giving you that slow motion effect. But they said that, they also have a new camera system and an A15 Bionic chip. Like the iPhone 13, Apple has also promised improved battery life from the iPhone 12 series. What that actually means, I'm sure that we have another story here kind of dedicated to that. And of course, we're going to dig into a lot of these points here in just a moment. This is a quick highlight. They also mentioned that the new iPhones add a cinematic mode. Actually, we can go ahead and do this. Let's see. So this works. Let's jump back just a little bit, and we'll talk about the iPhone 13 and the 13 mini, because these are kind of the more mainstream phones that if you don't want to shell out $1,000, $1,100, this is what you are going to be using. So they mentioned that, as with last year, the iPhone 13, as well as the 5.4-inch iPhone 13 mini. And, the 5.4-inch, if you remember the heyday of the iPhone 5S, that's pretty much the same, the last time that they had a smaller size phone and not the 6.1-inch phone that I think we're all pretty used to by now. The screen is an OLED panel, although it's brighter than last year's, while the sides are still aluminum sandwiched between two slabs of glass. So you can see that there. Pricing starts at $830 and $730 for the mini, so $830 for the iPhone 13, and you can get about $30 discounts. Pre-orders start right away, and the different storage sizes: 128, 256, and 512. So no sign there of the 1 terabyte that we were talking about yesterday. Now, with that said, they are saying that unlike the iPhone 12, the iPhone 13 has the same broad look as last year's model, with a slimmed down Face ID notch that's 20% smaller, meaning it'll take up less space at the top of your phone. And let's see, I'm sure that they have an image right here. So the notch, instead of being what's known as kind of the Mickey Mouse ears that go on either side of the notch, just a little bit better. Don't get me wrong, far from that pinhole that I think we're all hoping for, but Apple has not deemed it prudent yet to give us a no-notch phone. They mentioned that there's the A15. It's a 5-nanometer chip and a 6-core CPU, but Apple says is the fastest CPU in a smartphone, up to 50% faster than the competition. It also says that the graphics are up to 30% faster than its competitors, although they don't specify what it's comparing to. Because, when you talk about graphics, you could talk about frame rate, you could talk about, kind of rendering speed, you could talk about, let's just face it, refresh rate. You could compare it to so many things, but Apple was just kind of nebulous on what it's actually comparing to. So I have no doubt that it's better in their benchmarks, but Yeah, and that's where Apple seems to get a lot of their performance boost, is that they design their own software, and then they design their own hardware, and then they optimize the software for the hardware, which is not really something that Android has the ability to do. Android has to make sure that their apps run on a wide variety of phones. And when I say wide, I mean everything from, the latest Huawei phone, the latest Samsung phone, phones that cost, $1,200 versus phones that cost $300. You have to make sure that those apps run on all of those at the same time. Apple just has 4 different phones that they have to optimize for, which helps a lot. The speed is nice, but I mean, by and large, apps are already very, very quick. So I'm kind of curious what they kind of mean by that. Now, they said that the new iPhone 13 lineup will also offer better battery life. It will get 1.5 hours more battery life than the iPhone 12 mini, so the iPhone 13 mini, and whereas the 13 should get up to 2.5 hours more battery life compared to the iPhone 12. So if you're already looking at, 12, 13, 14 hours, you're looking at now 14, 15 hours, which is, pretty good. They said that that's thanks to bigger batteries. So not so much efficiency, just bigger batteries, better performance from the chip, and additional software improvements and optimizations. Unfortunately, what that means to me when they say that the battery life improves due to software improvements and optimizations, that's all well and good, but those numbers are always skewed towards, and I'm sure that you've run into this as well, whenever, they mention like light and moderate use or things like that. Like they compare it to like reading emails. And then of course you sit down to play a game for a couple hours, or you watch a video on your phone or a movie on your phone, and suddenly it goes from, 90% down to like 30% over the course of like a 2-hour movie. So performance will have to wait and see. But by and large, it's hard to critique a bigger battery. I mean, that's just going to give you more energy. So that's important. They mentioned that the new wide sensor, so the biggest change actually comes from a form of trickle-down camera technology from last year's Pro Max. The base iPhone 13 has gotten the same souped-up camera that Apple debuted in the previous smartphone, so they're able to fit it at a lower price point in the same packaging, with a physically larger sensor for the wide camera that's 40% bigger than last year, which means it captures more light in dark environments. As an iPhone user, their dark light, or like their low light photos, needed a lot of work. I've seen a lot better camera technology from Samsung. So, I mean, it's good that they improved it, but they kind of had to keep up with their competitors. Now, they mentioned that the new wide sensor, it's a 12 megapixel, 1.6 aperture lens, while the 12 megapixel ultra wide camera features a faster 2.4 lens and 120 degree field of view. So you can do that, if you're using your phone, there's of course the 2x zoom, and then there's like the 0.5 zoom, which catches a wide angle shot. Always important. And I've gotten a lot of use out of that thing. They mentioned that the iPhone 13 will also feature the sensor shift stabilization technology that they showed last year. So essentially, what was new last year comes to the lower line of models this year. So makes sense. The new cameras will also be the photographic profiles feature that Apple introduced with the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, which allow you to customize the look of your photos even further for more consistency across shots. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. Apple is also promising improved 5G performance compared to the iPhone 12, with more band support for better international 5G experiences, although I'm sure that's not the biggest concern of theirs, seeing as how travel is still very, very limited. But the company promises that the iPhone will support 200 carriers in 60 countries by the end of the year. There you go. And by the way, they also introduced a cinematic mode for video that allows for a rack focus effect to change the focus during a video, which the company showed off using the Knives Out style parody. There you go. You'll be able to manually change focus or lock focus on a particular object for more precise control. The front-facing camera will also feature cinematic mode support. So there you go. Those are the two lower ones. That's the iPhone 13 mini and the iPhone 13. And then we'll, of course, talk about the Pro Max here as well. Yeah, and actually we can talk about, oh my God, just had it open. There we go. Okay, and again, if you're following along with the video portion, you can see that there. This is also by The Verge, and they mentioned that the iPhone 13 Pro, what actually comes in with this thing. So the iPhone 13 Pro Max looks like they're keeping pricing pretty similar to last year. $999 for the iPhone Pro and $1099 for the iPhone Pro Max. And of course it starts there, and if you want to go up and up and up in pricing, you're looking at probably $1,200 to $1,300 for the higher storage capacity. And by the way, looks like our rumor from yesterday was correct. These actually do offer 1 terabyte of storage. So there you go. Looking forward to that. Now, Apple says that the phones have an all-new 3 cameras. Actually, let's start a little bit back here. So they're a little bit faster. Improved displays with up to 120 Hz ProMotion high refresh rate and as bright as 1000 nits. The Super Retina XDR display on both models support variable refresh rates between 10 and 120 Hz in the same size as last year at 6.1 and 6.7 inches. So obviously the Pro Max will be the 6.7. They have smaller notches that allow for more space on the iOS status bar, and the phones will be available in 4 colors: graphite, gold, silver, and light blue, which looks pretty snazzy. Pretty good. I'm a fan of that light blue. Apple says that the phones have an all-new 3-camera system, although it looks really similar to my existing 3-camera system. But what do I know? The wide camera should offer better low-light photography, and the ultra-wide should see improvements as well due to a wider aperture. They say that the phone's telephoto camera now goes up to 3x zoom, and so this is an important part. I was a big fan of the 2x zoom, and a lot of other phones are promising like up to 100x zoom. Whenever we cover cameras, I always like to point out the difference between physical zoom and digital zoom, where a physical zoom is that 2x or now 3x I'm sorry, 2x or 3x that iPhone's now offering versus 100x that Samsung is offering. Samsung has a ton of megapixels. Like they capture so much detail, like so much light. Their picture has a lot more pixels than iPhone's did. And then when you zoom in by 100, all it does is essentially you are pinching and zooming into a photo. It's not actually capturing any more detail or giving you any more definition of that photo. You are simply cropping it, essentially, when you digital zoom in. When you have the actual physical zoom or the optical zoom, you are actually using a magnifying glass to actually capture things in more detail. So optical zoom is definitely more preferable to a digital zoom. And by the way, the 3 setup, so you have a 3x zoom, but I guess using all 3 cameras, you can get a 6x optical zoom. So great for macro photography. If you ever tried to, what's the most artsy thing in the world? Take a picture of a strawberry, and get the really fine details. That's where macro photography would be super good. And of course, whenever you get too close with your camera, everything gets all blurry and blurred out, and it's hard to do anything, which the iPhone definitely has a problem with. Well, it looks like you can now take images of things up to 2 centimeters away. Very, very good. By the way, both also offer image stabilization. So yeah, no more blurriness, or at least a lot less blurriness. On the software side, Apple has announced a new photographic styles feature, which looks like it works like a traditional camera filter with an added dose of computational photography. They said that on the video side, the cinematic focus feature announced for the iPhone 13 will also be available for the more expensive models. They said that the iPhone 13 Pro will also be able to film in up to 4K 30 FPS in ProRes, a higher quality video format that gives video editors more control when tweaking footage after it's been shot. I'm sure that means that while on the surface it looks the same, more data is captured and stored during the actual filming. So I'm sure that if you needed to focus the face a little bit, or, kind of clear up the shot a little bit, that gives them more information to work with behind the scenes. So trying to clearly make a case that the iPhone is a tool for making movies, and kind of a semi-professional tool. They mentioned that, however, the base 128 gig storage option will top out at 1080p 30 FPS. Very strange that they are now limiting features based on the amount of storage that you get. I don't know if I like that. I really don't know if I like that. But they say that ProRes support will be available in future iOS 15 updates. So looking here, we have a lot to kind of break down a little bit here. You can see a little collage of what they're talking about, but internally, both devices are using the new A15 chip as well. Apple also says that the chip should be faster at machine learning tasks, which would be good for all the photo editing and photo computational brouhaha that they're working on. Battery life has been improved, where the iPhone 13 Pro has 1.5 hours longer, with the Pro Max being 2.5 hours longer as well. Storage options for the iPhone 13 Pro range from 128 to 1 terabyte, where the most storage Apple has ever offered in a phone. And that's good. Don't get me wrong, 1 terabyte is a lot of storage. Looks like they will never bring a micro SD slot to an iPhone, unfortunately, especially with all the features that they're giving the cameras, and then they don't give people a way to easily take a lot of video. But here we are. They said that this is the third year Apple is splitting its flagship phone lineup into the regular and Pro devices. Last year, they said many reviewers noted that there isn't much difference between a 12 Pro and an iPhone 12. Yes, the 12 Pro has an extra telephoto camera, LiDAR sensor, and more RAM, but its basic design, processor, 5G capabilities, and display were all similar, if not identical, to the regular iPhone 12. So essentially, you get a few features for an iPhone 13 Pro versus the 13. So if you're a fan of LiDAR sensor would help with, kind of measuring things, some kind of AR apps, certain features when it comes to like Apple AirTags and whatnot. Helps with a couple of features. If you're a bigger fan of an extra telephoto camera, so if you're taking super close-up shots and you find yourself zooming in a lot, and of course just being a photo junkie, maybe that's for you. The RAM and the base storage, everything's going to run smoothly on either one of these, so honestly, for $160 extra, maybe the iPhone 13 is all you really need over the Pro. The Pro does not seem to offer all that much. And the only reason that you would go even beyond that to the Pro Max would be if you're just a fan of that 6.7-inch format screen. So there you go. There's the iPhone 13, 13 Pro, 13 Mini, and 13 Pro Max. So definitely a big lineup there, and you can see that there. Let's see. So the new iPhones add a cinematic mode, which we mentioned. Apple Watch Series 7 has a new design and bigger screen. These things are starting to look funky, but at least they are recognizable. Now, didn't mean to click on that. So, close that. Okay, the Apple Watch Series 7 has a brand new look, and I mean, it's pretty good. They have a photo of a woman here up on the screen, which honestly looks good. Some of the smartwatches still to this day had a very pixelated looking screen, and it's come a fair way. So that's definitely good to see. The Apple's Watch Series 7 looks a little different from than its predecessors. The display now goes virtually to the edge. Yep, to the edge of the case. That means that while the watch isn't much bigger, everything on it should be more readable. Very important. And I think, so this is an example. It's kind of hard to see, really what they're talking about. Like the difference here, and I guess it's, in the left image, you can see that there is, maybe a centimeter or two of kind of dead space all the way around the edge. And you can definitely see it here in the bottom left. Whereas, the curve of the screen kind of starts and ends. And then the actual screen that is behind that curved, that curved casing gives you like an extra centimeter. And when you're talking about something like the Apple Watch, where it's already a pretty small device, that little bit makes a pretty big difference. Not a huge difference, if I'm being honest, just looking at this here. But for those who are already using it, it may feel a lot better. They mentioned that there's a new set of watch faces to take advantage of the larger screen, including a more modular watch face so you can really peer at all the micro details related to your active rings, and a funky new watch face meant to highlight the minuscule bezel. There you go. Let's see. So a bigger display doesn't mean that it's more delicate. Apple claims it's crack resistant and now has an IP6X rating, which means that you can take a dunk in the sand or beach or other dusty environments. It's also just a little bit bigger. The Series 7 comes in 41mm and 45mm sizes. That's 1mm more than the Series 6. The small, and by the way, I'm sure that everyone out there that makes watch cases, I'm sure that 1mm is hopefully not enough to ruin their designs, but it might just be. And hey, you always have to sell a new watch band or a new case. Got to change it just a little bit. They said that the small Series 7 is now just 1mm smaller than the original largest Apple Watch back in 2014. So apart from the changes above, the Series 7 is an awful lot like the Series 6. It looks like not much has changed. 18 hours battery life, 33% faster, so they claim. Charging, the aluminum variation will come in 5 different colors, which look pretty good. Black, gold, green, blue, and red. You see all that there. And they say that besides the refresh to the premium Apple Watch, Apple also added some new features for the watchOS 8. Fall support will now also appear in workouts. So if you wreck your bike or trip or badly, trip up badly during a brutal workout, the watch will be able to contact emergency services. Fitness Plus is also getting some upgrades, and all of this. The Watch Series 3 is $200. The SE is about $280, and the Series 7 is available for $400. So, paying a premium for that thing. Honestly, not that impressive when it comes to the upgrades. Now, continuing on here, they're saying that the Apple Series has new design, bigger screens. Apple announces new workouts coming to Fitness Plus, you can see here, essentially they will be offering Pilates, guided meditations, and workouts inspired by winter sports to the service later this month. Group workouts coming later this fall will let you work out with your friends, and the service is expanding to more countries later this fall. So trying to turn home workouts into more social workouts. Best of luck there. Apple announces Apple's new iPad mini has a bigger screen. You can see 8.3 inch and a refreshed design. So this is really probably the next, like after obviously the iPhone updates, the iPad mini and the iPad refresh is probably the next biggest deal that they kind of did here. So they said that the all-new iPad mini announced with 5G, USB-C, and a larger 8.13-inch display. And that's up from 7.9 inches, making the device even more viable as a driver for multitasking or schoolwork. And Apple says that the screen can reach 500 nits of brightness, which, by the way, really puts the iPhone Pro into perspective, being 1,000 nits. So that thing is twice as bright as an iPad. But still, it comes with an anti-reflective coating, of course. The iPad mini is currently the smallest tablet, even with the bump in size. Apple was rumored to have been considering a mini LED display on the new iPad, similar to that of the largest iPad Pro. Those appear to have missed the mark. The new mini sports a regular liquid retina display. So let's see. With that being said, the new tablet also features USB-C. So instead of the Lightning connector, USB-C, which is great. I'm glad that they're moving away from. I'm glad that they're moving away from it, but let's not forget that they were legally required to move away from their Lightning connector and have USB-C instead by the European Union. So, yep, glad that they follow the rule of the law. Touch ID on the top button, still no Face ID, which is good. Face ID rarely, if ever, works. A new landscape stereo speaker and upgraded 12 megapixel camera on the front and the back. It also supports Wi-Fi 6 and optional 5G, which with download speeds up to 3.5 gigabits per second, as well as a second generation Apple Pencil that attaches magnetically and charges wirelessly. Pretty standard. The enclosure also incorporates 100% recycled aluminum, which, Apple is one of those companies that they produce a lot of trash. And it's great to see that they're getting more environmentally conscious. I don't want to bash them for essentially redesigning the same product, just 5% different, and then making everyone throw away their old devices and buy new ones. But hey, kudos where kudos are needed. 100% recycled aluminum, 100% recycled tin, and the enclosure magnets and speakers are 100% recycled rare earth elements. Apple claims that you can expect 40% faster CPU thanks to the A15 Bionic chip that's now standard. They mentioned that the iPad mini starts at $500. The cell models start at $650, and the Apple in the case costs $59, with the pencil costing $130. So there you have it. So let's see. A little bit bigger display, all that well and good. You can see that there. Lots of product images. Like, say what you want about Apple, they do amazing product images. So Apple's new iPad mini has a bigger screen, refreshed design, and their 9th generation iPad has an A13 Bionic chip, as well as a 12 megapixel camera, and the iPad starts at about $330. So it's cheaper than the iPad mini, but it's faster than it used to be, a little bit of a refresh, and it's just the biggest refresh we've seen from the baseline starter iPad. And on top of all that, iOS 15, iPadOS 15, and watchOS 8 will be available September 20th. And as with all updates, especially when it comes to Apple, with the story we just had yesterday when it comes to the security update. Be sure to update as soon as possible. Even though you may not like the designs or the features or anything like that, from a security standpoint, always try to be on the latest version of iOS. Now, they say that the company announced the new free operating system earlier in June and offered public betas over the summer. Both of these have a big number of features. The headliners include the changes to notifications, focus modes for creating distinct lists of apps, and notifications allowed to reach users at different times of the day. On the iPadOS and iPadOS 15, and finally the iOS 14 feature, like the app library and resizable widgets. So if let's say you want a weather app to be larger to display more information, it's not just another little square on your phone. You can actually change the size of these things. So there you go. Let's see. Apple says SharePlay, the ability to share video and audio live over FaceTime calls, is slated for later this year. Let's see. Okay, so that was a lot of Apple talk and what they've kind of outlined there. We can go ahead and talk about some of this here. Okay, just make sure that we covered all of this. So cinematic mode will let you manipulate focus like a pro, and that's essentially where you can designate one person to kind of focus on. So obviously if you're taking taking a video of, let's say, your dog, and there are multiple things moving in and out of the foreground, instead of it kind of resyncing the zoom and trying to do things, you can designate that I want this object to always be within focus and everything else goes out of focus. So it gives you that depth of field look that honestly iPhone has been missing. Very, very good. Let's see. So group workouts, we already mentioned that. Talk about that. The smaller notch and the bigger battery, talked about that. Ladies and gentlemen, I think, let's see. We have this one here about iOS 15 brings FaceTime and AI features on September 20th, which we already talked about that as well. I think that's about it for as far as Apple goes. Yeah, except for autoplay videos. Those things are super annoying. In fact, so annoying, we're going to go ahead and close that. Okay. I think we're done with Apple. Everyone, we did it. We're amazing. Okay. So that's the first part of the show. Second part of the show, we have just general computer and technology news. Nothing else about Apple. So everyone, we hope that gave you a good outline over what Apple announced. Honestly, if you want it in a short little blurb, it's that Apple debuts literally the same thing that they did last year. Like if you just went back and pretty much just struck iPhone 12 for iPhone 13 and kept the amount of improvements, and just swapped out just like a couple of different things, stay the course. It's been working, and they're going to continue to, upgrade these things by 10-15%, make bezels a little bit smaller, make batteries a little bit bigger, make processors a little bit faster, make the iOS a little bit different, and it's the same thing as last year. So, for better or for worse, I would say for better, because obviously everything 10% better, always a good thing. But if you're looking for something revolutionary, not this year, which not surprised whatsoever with everything going on with COVID. As much as we're all tired of hearing about COVID and the trials and tribulations it's causing all of us at home, for the supply chain, for development, and for tech companies, especially for Apple, I'm sure, as well as everyone else, let's face it, if you need to get your hands on new chips, I mean, it's great that Apple has their own foundries and their own, and their ability to create their own hardware, but I'm sure that even they are feeling the pressure from the supply chain and their lack of ability to get new hardware. So, yeah, they're trying their best, but I think it's amazing that they were even able to put out something new, even if it's just essentially the same new that we saw last year. Okay, now, computer technology news. I think that our next story that we're going to talk about is this one. And television technology is always fun because when you talk about the super high-end kind of things, you will never be able to afford it. And that's okay, because it's not really meant for you. It's not meant for me. It's meant for people with hundreds of times our combined net value. And I'm looking at things like the Samsung Wall, LG's rollable displays, things like that. Well, LG has a new one that maybe someday will come to a home near you. And as you can tell from the product images, which you can see up there on the screen, it itself is not really ready to show off because this is all a digital rendering. And no, those people are not very, very small. Although this looks like something out of The Sims. No, these people are not, this mother and the child are not very, very small. Rather, the television is very large. It's LG's 325-inch direct view LED TV is an answer to the Wall, saying that you can customize the extreme home cinema for smaller sizes if you must. Now, obviously, the Wall, if you don't know about that, it goes up to, I want to say, like 144 inches or something like that. It's very, very large. It has these kind of square LED panels that can be clicked into place and form one seamless display that, while yes, it's probably found in some of the most expensive homes in the country, it's really meant for advertising, cinemas, malls, things like that. So, that's been available for quite a while, and you can customize the shape. If you want something that is X inches by X inches, then hey, they'd be able to manufacture the back plating for you specifically. Well, the answer to the modular design is the Direct View LED Extreme Home Cinema line, and it's for super luxury homes. If it makes you feel better, these things probably aren't that much better than the TV you have. It's just that this one can range anywhere from 81 inches to 325-inch setup. And they say that it's the same basic concept of using millions of LEDs, anywhere from 2 to 33 million in a single setup, saying that you'll need to stick to a conventional 16:9 ratio if you want those extremes, but you can also opt for the ultra stretch 32:9 arrangement if you want to watch multiple video sources at the same time. So think of things like live sporting features and things like that. You'll have to spring for the 33 million diodes if you want an 8K picture, but you can make do with 4K or even 2K. If you're not quite so determined to impress your guest, a WebOS controller box provides smart TV functions. There you go. LG is taking orders for the DV LED home sets now, but it won't shock you to hear that LG isn't listing the price. LG estimates the installation warranty support, including twice-a-year health checks, are worth about $30,000. The actual set is bound to be much more. If that's too much, you'll have to settle for LG's $100,000 rollable OLED technology. So this one uses the same conventional technology that Samsung kind of made popular with the Wall, and yeah, it can go all the way up to 325 inches, which is really spectacular that they're able to get their software to essentially coordinate so many of the panels together, which is really what is, kind of the secret behind this. Each one of the little panels, the little squares that make up this whole thing, each one individually can be its own monitor. That's why it can either function as an 81-inch television or a 320-inch television. And the intelligence of this thing is that it can dynamically adjust to whatever it is, to whatever size that you kind of make it. So if you only want a 160-inch television, this can provide that for you. yeah, odds are no one here is going to buy it. And honestly, it's probably way overpriced because it is such a novelty. If any super homes out there really do get like, anything below like 160 inch, they'd probably be better off just getting a really good projector for a fraction of the price. But hey, to each their own. And clearly, the idea of a super luxury home, which again, super luxury being the operable word there, not the biggest marketplace, but I'm sure LG knows that. It's more of a feather in the cap for them. Okay, how about we talk about a dystopian future, the likes of which I did not see coming for another couple of, well, hopefully another decade or so, but looks like it's already here. Social media influencer / model, and before I lose you, and because talking about influencers or social media models that you don't care about, the most boring thing in the world, but you might care a little bit about this one because this one doesn't really exist. Although it has already landed about 100 different sponsorships. It's created with artificial intelligence, and it lands 100 different sponsors, saying that with the advancement of the technology, AI influencers and virtual human models are becoming the new trend. It has certainly emerged as a blue chip in the advertising industry because there are no privacy scandals and there are no time-space restrictions with these virtual humans. In particular, the use of virtual humans seems to be gaining more momentum as the COVID-19 pandemic, where there are many restrictions on travel and limitations on the number of people gathering. So instead of having an individual that flies to Milan to do a fashion shoot, instead you just get a preset photo background of Milan and you get the AI model to put on your latest fashion and drop it right into the picture. Always looking perfect, great lighting, great shot every single time, great composition, and boom, it's ready to be posted on social media and ready to be shown off for your advertisers. On September 10th, Baek Sung-yup, CEO of Citus Studio X that created Rosie, which is the model that you see up on my screen, the newly rising blue chip in the advertising industry, explained that these days celebrities are sometimes withdrawn from drama that they have been filming because of school violence scandals or bullying controversies. However, virtual humans have zero scandals to worry about. What they're saying there is that every once in a while you hear a story about someone harassing someone else or someone else being crazy or, a mental health breakdown or, so many other things that can happen to everyday humans, but not so much a concern for what is essentially a well-dressed toaster. They said that Rosie is a virtual human that was created at the studio last year in August. Her age will forever be 22, and she has been keeping an active presence online as a real human since December of last year. In particular, this virtual human began gaining much attention as she appeared in an advertisement back in July. According to the CEO, Rosie currently has advertising contracts with companies and a significant amount of sponsorships. Saying that they have already advertised twice this week alone and have 8 exclusive contracts. She has landed more than 100 sponsorships, but we have not been able to process them yet. Pretty impressive. He then added that we have achieved our goal of profit now and think that Rosie will be able to make more than about $1 million by the end of the year taking sponsorships. And, you can see different images here. You can see, of course, Rosie in a dress. You can see Rosie blowing out birthday candles, which, judging by anything, it looks like this, not an actual person is sitting here blowing out the candles on a cake. And at the bottom of the cake, it says, let's see, what does that say? That says the Trombone Place. Essentially a restaurant or a design company that is trying to advertise there subtly. Honestly, the amount of subtle advertising that goes into influencers' social media is pretty high, and it's so subtle, it's almost deceptive. But essentially, if you know it's coming from an artificial intelligence and you know that all of these things are coming from an advertising agency, then every single post is going to be a form of advertising. It's just instead of a billboard with a model, it's a random slice of life with an artificial fake model. As the CEO said, the reason for the popularity of virtual humans is that there is no fear that advertisements will be suspended due to privacy scandals after the AI model is selected as the model. In addition, the location and scene can be created through computer graphics, so the virtual model is not limited by time and space, unlike real people. The other advantage is that the period in which the model can be active is very long or eternal because the virtual human does not get sick or grow old. Essentially, advertising, it will always be dated. If you look at advertising from the 1990s, the type of cars, the type of clothing, the type of whatever, and of course the people in the photos will always give away the sense of the time. Whereas with this virtual model, they will always look the same. It's not like, oh, that was, the crazy time where they cut their hair and, it was long, it was short. Think about things like Oprah where, she lost weight, she gained weight, she was all over the board. There's no way to kind of say that, oh, this was this era. No, the model will be whatever the model needs to be. So yeah, artificial model. It's a thing now. Kind of scary. And while they say no privacy scandal, I gotta say, I have less faith in the internet than that to assume that there will not be any privacy scandals with artificial humans. Just saying. Now, our next story, we have a couple of different ones here. How about Sony? So real quick, PlayStation 5, there was this feature that was only available to a certain number of PlayStation units, but starting tomorrow, starting tomorrow, everyone will be able to unlock the SSD slot for the PlayStation 5. So if you bought the latest hardware, then hey, you're getting a little bit of a free upgrade. They said that after beta testing the second major PlayStation 5 firmware update, Sony said it is ready to roll out to everyone along with the new version of the PlayStation 4 system software and the mobile apps. The PS5 patch is the big one since 10 months after they released the console, the company is finally unlocking the internal storage expansion slot for everyone. They mentioned that plug in a compatible M.2 solid-state drive, and if you've ever seen an M.2, or if you're not really sure what I'm talking about, unlike the kind of boxy-looking solid-state drives that you're used to, M.2s look more like a stick of RAM. They're very, very sleek and would fit directly into the unit. They mentioned that although you can store games on an external hard drive, you can't run PlayStation 5 titles from USB storage. Those drives are just too slow and enter the M.2. And you can use it just like the system's internal storage for PlayStation 5 games, PS4 titles, and media apps. You can move games and apps between the internal storage as you wish. So it's perfect. Doesn't mean that one or the other. And I'm sure that the list of compatible M.2 would be listed on their site. However, it's important to note that not any M.2 will do. You'll either need one with a built-in cooling structure or to add your own heatsink. Sony has several other requirements, and they mentioned that the article here from Engadget has a list that you can buy for the PlayStation 5. So the update, other than unlocking the SSD for everyone, and by the way, the PlayStation 5 even has their own installation guide that you can see there. So the update adds some other handy features, including 3D audio support for built-in TV speakers, which you can activate through the sound menu. You'll be able to use the DualSense controller microphone to measure the acoustics and help decide the best place for setting up your space, which Yeah, I mean, for people who are super audiophiles and people who really like to have an immersive video game or movie experience, pretty cool. They can use the existing microphone built into the controller and essentially like walk around the space, and the system will say right there, right here is the best place to put your left speaker, right here is the best place to put your right speaker, because it's not always intuitive. They said that there will also be equalizer settings for the Pulse 3D wireless headset. Some key user interface changes are on the way as part of the update, saying that it should be easier to tell whether a game you have installed is the PS4 or the PS5 version. Each will be listed separately in the Install tab. And I guess some people were running the PlayStation 4 version as opposed to the PlayStation 5, and you can imagine the lack of fidelity, I'm sure, that people were getting. You'll have additional customization from the control center, including more choice over which controls to include in the bar at the bottom of the screen. You can move those around, so you can place the power menu on the left if you like. You'll be able to essentially control a bit more with the control center. Let's see. So accessibility front, which is always important, getting more people playing video games. You can press the PlayStation and triangle button to turn the feature on or off. And that means that you can have the new screen reader shortcut, and press the PlayStation and R1 button to have the tool repeat the last thing it said. PlayStation, and that would be for people who are visually impaired, so that the screen will be able to be read to them. Members can select a resolution of 720p or 1080p depending on the game, and there's a tool to test your connection and hopefully help you resolve any issues. Let's see, it will automatically record clips of your personal best moments, and that includes things like hitting high scores or achieving trophies. That's not all. Sony will release a PlayStation 4 update tomorrow. You'll be able to see your PlayStation 5 trophies on PS4, so essentially making it more your account rather than your console. On both consoles, you'll be able to disband a party without removing people individually if you are the party owner. On top of that, there are updates coming to the PlayStation mobile apps. Starting tomorrow, you'll be able to stream PlayStation 4 and PS5 games to your iOS or Android device over mobile networks, a feature that definitely would have come in handy for visiting places over the summer. Meanwhile, as of September 23rd, so in just a little over a week, you'll be able to watch your friend's PlayStation 5 screen share broadcast through the PlayStation app, so turning it more into a streaming feature. Pretty cool all around, and again, remember, all of this stuff is absolutely free. Some very notable upgrades there, and hey, it's all just software oriented. So the last story that we have, and I want to get to this one real quick because I saw it yesterday, and it didn't interest me that much, but now it kind of does. Lab-grown woolly mammoth could walk the earth in 6 years if this new startup is a success. And I think the startup, they said that the company now has $15 million in seed funding from a variety of investors and Lamb as CEO. And they're saying that the researchers said that we had about $100,000 over the last 15 years, which is way, way less than any other project in his lab, but not through lack of enthusiasm. It is by far the favorite story. We've never done a press release on it all those years, and it just came up. It just comes up naturally in conversation. And this has to do with resurrecting the woolly mammoth. So they said that the startup's goal is ambitious and a little bit crazy. It aims to create a new type of animal similar to the extinct woolly mammoth, but by genetically engineering endangered Asian elephants to withstand Arctic temperatures. So resurrecting the woolly mammoth, but kind of reverse engineering existing elephants and tinkering with their genes until it becomes a viable embryo and can be, implanted in a surrogate. They said that it could take as little as 6 years for Colossal to create a calf. The timeline is aggressive. When people used to ask me the question, he said that I have no idea, we don't have any funding, but now I can't dodge it. I would say 6 years is not out of the question. They're saying that our goal is in the successful de-extinction of interbreedable herds of mammoths so that we can leverage in the rewilding of the Arctic. And then we want to leverage those technologies for what we're calling thoughtful, disruptive conservation. So essentially reintroducing extinct animals back into natural habitats. It's ambitious. It's a little bit crazy. I hope they didn't just steal $15 million worth of investments that could have gone to other science projects. But hey, it might just be possible to create a genetically modified elephant to look like a woolly mammoth. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the program. That's about it. We hope you enjoyed the Apple recap. And everyone, be sure to tune in tomorrow here on Computer America, where we'll have another great show for you. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.